Hey guys, it's Daryl here. It's Friday morning. I wanted to make this video while it's still fresh in my mind. I just got back from my walk. It was a short walk. It is below zero out there. I started to get frost on my eyelashes and eyelids. All right, let me get right into it here. I stop at this little convenience store. There's a lot of convenience stores. There's the main ones, the Cumberland Farms and all those, the Gulf, the Mobiles, and then there's a few smaller ones that pop up and then they don't do so good and they disappear. Another one pops up. There's a few emptier stores down here on Main Street. Some mornings I like good coffee, and not just the coffee I make here from my little cheap coffee maker. I get a craving for real coffee, good coffee. So I stop in there. Okay, the guy who works there, it's a younger guy, I guess in his 20s. Now, he's Indian or Pakistani, I'm going to guess. I didn't ask. I thought it might be rude to ask. And here's the reason I didn't ask too. I leveled down to Indian or Pakistani by his speech. He speaks English, but it's hard to understand each other sometimes. We can basically understand each other. But I level it down to either probably Indian or Pakistani. And the reason I don't ask, if people that keep up on this stuff, is Pakistan and India have an ongoing conflict, a serious conflict between the two of them over, I believe it's Kashmir and Tibet, maybe? I don't know if it's Tibet. Is it Kashmir, though? And it's serious. It could be almost on the verge of nuclear talk and shit, stuff like that. So I didn't want to ask. I didn't want to say, are you from India or from Pakistan, and guess the wrong one. Anyway, one of the countries, he is one of the people that Trump supporters, the cult of Trump, would call a brown person, a Muslim. They would use more derogatory terms. I don't even want to repeat. He's definitely from a Middle Eastern. I don't know if India is Middle Eastern. I think it's the subcontinent of Asia, actually. Anyway, so I see him every time I go in there. He asked me if I was going to work one day. And I got to, anybody that asks me private questions, I'm cautious, and I started telling him about being an artist, and he seemed interested in that. So this is over the period of 5 visits or so. And I told him I was an artist, and on another visit, and he started asking, well, how do you sell your paintings? Where do you sell them? And then on the next visit, over a series of visits, he says, he likes to talk to creative people because he writes. He's a writer. And I noticed he's always sitting down kind of hidden, and when I walk in, he pops up. So he's sitting back there writing. It's not a very busy store. It's not one of the most popular stores. Another reason I go there is because I've always believed in giving my business to local, supporting my local businesses, especially the smaller, struggling ones. Like I said, these little stores pop up and then disappear. So I do what I can to give them my business. So we start talking about books. We start talking about writing. And I discovered I got so much in common with this guy. I'm not one of those people that will stand in a convenience store for like a half hour and just, chit chat. That's not me. But I find myself standing there and just going on and on in a conversation with this guy. Not only is he a writer, but he started talking about doing, writing in journals. He started talking about science fiction, which I love, man. He started telling me about this series called The Expanse about Mars and a colony on Mars. And I'm like, wow, that sounds great. So not only do we have something in common, but then he went on to talk about how he writes in journals, like I was saying. And he said how he writes about what he thought about the day before, what he did right, what he did wrong, if he prayed or what, And I'll be damned, that's exactly the stuff I write in my journals, kind of like a self-evaluation. I think he actually used that word, and I'm like, son of a bitch, man. Not only do we have stuff in common, but this guy we think very similar. you know, very similar interests. He's creative, you know. So I'm having a great conversation. He has aspirations to write a book. So he starts out by doing this journaling every day, you know, and I tell him about how I have shoe boxes. I have like 5 Nike shoe boxes downstairs filled with journals. And I told him about my aspirations of writing. That's one of my big goals, is writing a novel, an autobiography, to help people. You know, how I got into recovery and everything, because very few people make it a year or more in recovery, heroin and crack addiction, you know, like I did. So I've been dying to write an autobiography. And when I pray every morning, I pray for that goal, to fulfill that goal. And I actually picture myself signing my book at Barnes & Noble for like a line of people. And I visualize that in my head every morning when I pray. True story. I've never told anybody that. So I'm clicking with it, you know, and it's cool, man. And I like I said, I'm not the kind of person that, you know, goes, you know, I'm friendly, but I'm not, you know, I'm definitely not somebody who is needy for friendship. I'm not that kind of person. You know, I don't need human interaction. I can go days without interacting with anybody, no problem. So this is almost not like me. You know, finding myself in a good conversation. I didn't even ask the guy's name. I'm thinking about what I'm going to title this video, you know, because I didn't ask his name. I'm not that, that's another thing, is I make that mistake a lot of times when I connect with somebody. I get, you know, and I get into the subject. I don't, you know, I could picture, I look them in the eye and I'm interacting, but a name, I tend not to ask for a name, or I'll forget the name. So anyway, after I left today, we're in a deep conversation about science fiction and you know, this show, The Expanse, he's telling me about, and then I start to think about, you know, this is one of the people that, I'm not sure if he's from India, which we haven't bombed yet, but Pakistan. He looks Middle Eastern, you know, he's a dark complexion. And I think back to the Trump supporters saying, you know, Muslim ban, none from these shithole countries and all this, and, you know, and I'm thinking about this is the guy they're talking about. A good, hardworking person starting a business. I got more in common with this guy and then I think about how I've been treated lately by some of the people closest to me. The Trump supporters. I've actually been told that I'm evil, you know, and I start thinking about the two, you know, and these are the things, like I said, I like to take an objective view of myself sometimes and make sure that I'm not fooling myself, I'm not lying to myself, that I'm doing good, that I'm not lying to myself, that I'm working for a greater good. And, you know, sometimes you have to check yourself. There's like they say, the path to hell is paved with good intentions. Is that the phrase? So I check myself from time to time, you know. And this is one of those times when I know in my heart that it's the right thing. You know, I'm not saying all you know, there's bad people of all different faiths. There's bad people of all different colors. To label one religion like Muslims or brown people or shithole countries, it's wrong on so many levels. Plus, you're denying yourself interaction like this to grow, to meet people who could benefit the country or your life. Also, I started thinking about extremists from this country, you know, because we're so worried about Muslim extremists. And for all I know, if this guy's from India, he might be Hindu, from Hindi religion. So I'm not even sure if he's Muslim. Like I said, and it wasn't all that important to me, to tell you the truth. It was just cool clicking with somebody. And like I said, not only did we have the same interests in common, but we thought the same with the journaling and the science fiction. And, you know, it's cool, man, you know. And he's not a bad guy. He's a great guy. He's just like me. He's me, except younger and a different and brown. You know, so like I said, and I think about the extremists. I think about those three guys they just caught in Virginia with all the ammo, the white supremacists looking to start trouble in Virginia. Um, with bad intentions, I'd imagine. If you have 15 rounds and you're talking about, going to war or civil war with your semi-automatic rifle, and you probably have bad intentions in mind. And now, see, you can't label somebody good or bad or evil by their color or if they're from a shithole country. And then I think about how Trump supporters they even miss out on these interactions like this. If you just solely limit yourself to interacting with people exactly like you miss out on a lot of And then sometimes I think in the back of my head too, is it fate? That you when you run into somebody that's similar to you, is it just part of life, fate, where you learn from other people? It was a good feeling, man. It was a good feeling, and it confirms my beliefs that I'm fighting for the right cause, for the right side, for the right ideas. All right, you guys have a good Friday.